Okay, we are looking at the screen there, what appears to be the limousine that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will take for this road trip from that train station on the Vietnam-China border to Hanoi. It looks as though he might be getting straight into his vehicle, walking up that short red carpet there. Only looks to be about 50 to 100 meters long. I'm sure he'll give some brief pleasantries to the gathered officials there, but perhaps he does want to get on to the road. As Jung-hee said, there has been some speculation that he might take one or two stops on his way down to Hanoi, but absolutely nothing has been confirmed as of now. As I mentioned before, we can see the security, the very heavy security we first witnessed in real time for the first time when there was the first summit between Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in. We'll await to see how long they can run alongside that vehicle as the limousine prepares to make its way out of the station. We are still awaiting the appearance of Kim Jong-un. Perhaps he's just getting his things in order. The delegation is making sure they're all going to come out in the correct order.
I mean, the Vietnamese officials were getting ready for this welcoming ceremony. They put a lot of efforts in this. I mean, I even heard that the Vietnamese officials actually had a fake Kim Jong-un model, like standing, you know, at that Dong Dang station over there, and they practiced a lot for this welcoming ceremony. I mean, you know, they've been, you know, having the red carpet, they've been cleaning up, but the most interesting part that I heard was that they had a fake Kim Jong-un, you know, standing there to have the best welcoming ceremony.
Yes, you can never be too careful with such an important person, and Vietnam will be very cautious to make sure not only Kim Jong-un but President Trump have a safe stay and a comfortable one in Vietnam for the duration of the next couple of days. It's hard to overstate how important this summit is for North Korea, the US, South Korea, and the world, but especially for Vietnam, because the eyes of the world are on how well they have prepared for this summit between the most powerful man in the world and Kim Jong-un, a man we knew very little about until a few years ago. It appears the door has been lined up with the red carpet now, a bit of maneuvering going on. Perhaps we'll see the door open soon, and then we can continue our discussion on what happens next.
Well, one thing I want to add is that this is the first time for a North Korean leader to visit Vietnam in over 50 years. I mean, the previous time that a North Korean leader has visited Vietnam is in 1958 and in 1964. Okay, we're seeing North Korean leader's sister Kim Yo-jong coming out of the train. She is a very close aide to North Korean leader. She's getting back in.
She got back
train.
in the train, yeah.
I guess she's getting ready for this welcoming ceremony as well.
Yeah. So we are expecting North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to step off that train in a couple of minutes' time. High stakes summit. We are all hoping that the two leaders, the President of the United States and the Chairman of North Korea, can really hammer out something tangible, something that is going to get the denuclearization process back on track. And hopefully there is talk about the potential for some declaration to end the Korean War. That truly would be remarkable as well. We await to see Kim Jong-un. The last time we saw him in public, Jung-hee, would have been a few months ago, really, apart from some still photos or some propaganda videos out of North Korea's. And here we see now, Kim Jong-un is departing from the train wearing his traditional black suit there. He is making his way. It's a touch dark right now, but he's going to shake hands with the North Korean officials who have been already locked in negotiations about drawing up a declaration that will come out after this summit. So let's keep our eye on the video, shall we, Jung-hee?
Yes, and there we see top North Korean officials lined up to come out after North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un just received a,
bouquet.
received some flowers from the Vietnamese officials, and there we see North Korea's top nuclear negotiator Kim Young-chol, who met with Secretary Pompeo several times. And I'm also seeing Lee Soo-yong, who's the head of the ruling party's International Affairs Department. I've just mentioned that he's a diplomacy expert in North Korea.
Well, it is a who's who of the North Korean leadership, as you would expect for a summit of this magnitude. We will see them walk up the red carpet. Kim Jong-un looking rather fresh. He doesn't look like a man who's taken a 2.5-day train visit. So perhaps we were correct in our assumption that he's been eating well and resting well during his journey. And yes, he's meeting and shaking hands with everyone. Security very, very tight, of course, as Kim Jong-un makes his way towards his armored limousine as well, something similar to the Beast, which the US president will presumably take when he arrives in Hanoi. He's set to arrive late on Tuesday. He is taking Air Force One, different mode of transportation for President Trump.
And some Vietnamese citizens welcoming the North Korean leader.
Yeah, there's a bit of a scrum going on with cameramen trying to jostle for the best position to get the best image of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. But we can see him much clearer now that he stepped out of the station. We can see his generals behind him, his mini army of bodyguards ready to protect him. And yes, so he's getting straight into his limousine where he will be driving to Hanoi, to his hotel, try and get a bit of rest before the next 2 days, which promise to be a couple of days packed with diplomacy. And Jung-hee, like you say, this really is a proud day for the people of Vietnam as well. North Korea and Vietnam share a great many things in common, including their political ideologies, of course.
Yeah, of course. I mean, another reason why Vietnam was chosen as the summit venue is because it's not only because of the rapid economic growth that Vietnam achieved, but it's also because Vietnam has maintained its Communist Party in terms of achieving a free market economy. So yeah, I mean, what North Korea wants is to keep its communist regime. And in terms of that, Vietnam is a very good exemplary case. And Vietnam and North Korea actually had a lot of ups and downs in terms of their diplomatic relations since 1950s. And also, I mean, in 2017? I mean, North Korean leader's half-brother, in terms of an alleged killing of his half-brother, it appeared that a Vietnamese woman is involved, and that's when the relations between the two countries actually went to the lowest level. But it's restored again. North Korea's foreign minister has visited Vietnam to learn from the economic development model, and here we're seeing Kim Jong-un and his delegation to see Vietnam, and possibly it's about 2-hour or 3-hour drive to Hanoi, and on this way. Nothing's for sure, but Kim Jong-un could visit some facilities, industrial facilities in the country.
And as we mentioned, the trip will take a couple of hours, and Hanoi is starting the process as well of going into lockdown, as it will stay that way for the next 2 days as Kim Jong-un and President Trump stay in the Vietnamese capital. The entire city will be on lockdown for the duration of their trip until they safely leave Hanoi. We are seeing Chairman Kim's vehicle leave the station now. He is being ushered along by his team of bodyguards there. We'll see how long they keep up the chase. Right now, here is the hotel where
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un should be taking off. We do not see the stern bodyguard that was directly staring at the camera just now, Jung-hoon.
We are just seeing some of the vehicles. Well, according to the schedule, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump were to arrive at Sofitel Legend Metropole at 6:15, which is only 2 minutes away from now, but it seems Kim is still not leaving from his hotel. And we heard that U.S. President Donald Trump is already on his way to the Metropole Hotel. So for Trump, from a JW Marriott Hotel where U.S. President Donald Trump is staying, okay, we're seeing some police cars coming along with some motorcycles.
This could be the motorcade to escort the North Korean leader to the venue.
Yes.
That's a huge turnout.
That is
Regular citizens and reporters alike.
Everywhere that North Korean leader was heading to, for example, the North Korean embassy in Hanoi, we could see a lot of Vietnamese citizens gathering up just to catch at least, one scene of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un walking, getting out of the car, waving at people. It seems like they have high expectations for the summit as well as very high attention on the North Korean leader himself.
Well, in Singapore, he was quite a celebrity, just taking casual strolls and even selfies with regular citizens there.
It was an unexpected, stop. It was an unexpected visit that he would make to the Marina Bay Sands with some of the top Singaporean officials, and taking selfies, looking at the nightscape of Singapore, directly looking into the economic development that Singapore was able to achieve as a hub nation in Southeast Asia.
Well, it was a rainy day when he arrived, and it seems
It's President Trump.
Trump has arrived at the Metropole.
Yes,
shortly.
some vehicles with American flags are making their way to a certain spot, and we think it'll be President Trump arriving at Sofitel Legend Metropole for his one-on-one conversation with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, as well as the social dinner.
And dinner with a very sophisticated menu that's supposed to be kept extra simple, according to the leaders of both sides. The car, I believe, is something unique on the American side. It's got a nickname called the Beast, I believe, according to some reports. It's certainly getting a lot of attention, and I'm sure a lot of car companies lobby to make sure they have the chance to be a part of the summit, as for the North Korean leader as well.
Yeah, last year even North Korean newspapers reported that President Trump showed off his car to Kim Jong-un.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, the young leader Kim Jong-un is interested in a lot of the latest snazzy products that's being produced from outside of North Korea, looking to keep up with the rest of the world someday soon. Of course, that would mean they will have to open up a little bit to the rest of the world and start an economic reform. And here is the North Korean leader's motorcade arriving.
No, those are vehicles with the American flag, so I think that's still the picture of the American delegation arriving at the Metropole. We're still
It's
not
such
sure.
a short distance between the event venue and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's quarters, but it's taking extra longer for him to be
Leave
seen.
his hotel.
Right.
But it only takes like 5 minutes for Kim to arrive at the dinner venue, so could be leaving quite soon.
For both of these enigmatic leaders, Dr. Hu, they do tend to make power statements in some unusual ways. It could be part of that to be casually late for this event as well.
So it was especially the case, and so last year at G20, when President Trump was waiting for President Moon Jae-in, many newspapers reported that it was very rare case for President Trump to wait for someone. So so making someone to wait for him is another way of showing his power or his status. But from the last year that they follow that choreographed move by each side. So I think that they are trying to be on time this time.
Okay. They are trying, but it's not working out for some reason.
Well, what I saw, what I read about was that for the case of the Singapore summit, I heard that we're able to learn who is a guest and who is serving the guest by where the leaders are standing. So, for example, at the Singapore summit, it was North Korean leader Kim Jong-un standing on the left, and then U.S. President Donald Trump standing on the right.
And we would like to apologize to our viewers for the quality of the footage we have at this point. That this is what we have at this point. We will try to provide you some extra detailed descriptions of what's going on as the hour progresses.
So at the Singapore summit, I heard that it was U.S. President Donald Trump who served North Korean leader Kim Jong-un as the guest. And I'm wondering what will happen about that at the Hanoi summit today.
Judging by the way the title and the names and the flags are arranged, it could be the other way around this time.
It could be the other way around. But, you know, looking at how Kim Jong-un is being late.
Speaking of North Korean leader's special ties to Vietnam, his grandfather has a unique bond with the founder or the leader of Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh.
So founder of North Korea, Kim Il-sung, he visited Vietnam in 1958 and 1964. So at that time, Kim Il-sung also used train in part of his journey to Vietnam. And at the same time that while he's traveling to Vietnam, he met Mao Zedong twice. So there was a speculation that Kim Jong-un wants to emulate his grandfather's journey to Vietnam this time. And there's also another speculation that Kim Jong-un might be meeting President Xi Jinping on his way back to Pyongyang. But the problem for that kind of scenario is that China is going to have the biggest political conference in from March 3rd and March 4th. So,
in fact, we're seeing some interesting developments there with the bodyguards stepping out of the vehicles.
Yes, it seems like a lot of vehicles actually arrived at a certain place and people looking like North Korean guards just got out of the car. They're running around. It seems like North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is on his way to, and we're seeing North Korean and American flags lined up. It seems like they're going to stand for a photo op quite soon.
It was interesting how Donald Trump's usual signature handshake did not shake up North Korean leader Kim Jong-un the first time they met. It seemed like they stood their ground and they did not exert too much pressure to portray some kind of a power move back then, a more amicable first contact back then.
Kim Jong-un, obviously being so much younger than President Trump, he still didn't want to lose, and he still, was on his ground. He kept his pride as a leader of a regime.
And hopefully Donald Trump is learning the ropes as he moves along to not really aggressively shake hands and do it for a prolonged period of time. This is an exciting moment for the people of Vietnam, as well as, of course, those of us watching from Korea and the United States as well. There are growing expectations as to what could come out of this summit. Partly, Professor Wu, because the first one was a rather disappointment, and I understand you got into a bit of a trouble by calling it not such a successful one after the summit ended.
So last year, many observers expected that there's going to be a big deal, which means that North Korea is going to fully denuclearize, and the U.S. and the international community is going to provide the lifting of those sanctions and some economic aid to North Korea. So that kind of a one-shot deal is going to make a huge difference in the Korean Peninsula and the region. However, it ended up with some kind of abstract agreement between two leaders on the bilateral relations and the perpetual peace on the Korean Peninsula, and the denuclearization and the repatriation of the remains of the U.S. soldiers. So one of the expectations from there was that two countries are going to have a working level negotiation from July, but we have to wait it for like 8 months until we saw this kind of working level negotiations with the summit in February this year. So last year's summit was meaningful in that actually decrease the tensions on the Korean Peninsula, and North Korea, as President Trump reiterated that North Korea has not tested any nuclear or missile tests since then. So it's just still meaningful, but whether it has been there's any kind of like expedition for the denuclearization of North Korea, we have some doubt. So that is why we have a bigger hope this time that they are going to produce some kind of meaningful result with regard to the denuclearization of North Korea. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un had a meeting with his staff in Vietnam, which was very rare case because even last year that North Korean newspapers reported after Kim Jong-un has left. But the North Korean TV this time was actually gave some kind of live feed that North Korean leader is taking train to Vietnam for the second summit with the President Trump. And this morning that North Korea's newspaper Nodong Sinmun reported that Kim Jong-un visited North Korean embassy in Hanoi, and he had debriefing from his staff about the negotiations so far. So I think his style is certainly different from his father and his grandfather.
Right. Media access is one way of gauging how different North Korea has become since opening up a little bit under the leadership of Kim Jong-un. Jong-il, during the first summit, rather the third summit between the two leaders of the two Koreas, there was considerable exposure and willingness to open up to the outside media.
That is true. I mean, not just the summit, but there were a lot of schedules beyond the summit meeting itself. Like, for example, President Moon and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un decided to have dinner at a North Korean local restaurant, which was even open to Pyongyang citizens. So that was the moment when South Korean President Moon Jae-in was exposed to the North Korean public, but at the same time, Kim Jong-un not just staying at home, but decided to come out with the South Korean president and enjoy the dinner together. So that was one moment, and another moment was, of course, South Korean President Moon and the North Korean leader going to the Mount Baekdusan together. They, singing along, they spending time together at the top of the mountain. Those kinds of moments were the scenes that we could see that North Korean leader is indeed willing to open up himself and actually increase his own exposure to the world, and portray himself as one of the normal leaders of so many countries, not just being a one-of-a-kind leader of a reclusive regime. So definitely, we saw North Korean leader move to different places. For example, yesterday he took a special train, arrived at Dongdang Station. He was greeted by the top Vietnamese officials. He went to the North Korean embassy. And a lot of Vietnamese citizens actually came out to the streets to capture the moments. So he is definitely increasing his exposure. And I believe that more of that we will be able to see, not just today and tomorrow, but also on Friday and Saturday as well, as Kim Jong-un will be, staying in Vietnam for 2 more days.
Right, and we are going to see the leaders finally making contact.
So the leaders of North Korea and the U.S. coming in to exchange greetings for a photo op, meeting for the first time since June 12, 2018.
A much softer handshake and immediate exchange of pleasantries and smiles, always a good sign.
Intimate smiles on their face.
But it seems like the Kim Jong-un's face is more tense than last year.
Right.
He has more smile last year, but he shows some kind of tenseness.
Trump is speaking.
Have you walked back at all on denuclearization in North Korea? No. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Mr. President, is it declare an end of the Korean War, sir? We'll see. We'll be seeing. Thank you. Thank you all very much. You're coming back.
So it looks like President Trump is not trying to give out much details on his one-on-one conversation and social dinner with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. We weren't able to hear the questions, but I could hear what Trump said. He said no, and he said we'll see. So definitely we could read that he was not willing to speak much about the upcoming schedules.
Which is an unusual side of Trump that we're seeing, because usually he takes to Twitter almost immediately whenever he has thoughts, and he's very candid when it comes to speaking with reporters.
So there was like this story that to be nominated for the Nobel
We are-
Prize.
Sorry.
Hostilities that still remain from the very
Coming
period
from
that's
Hanoi.
from the outside. But however, we have been able to overcome all those obstacles. And here we are today, after 261 days, and beyond it.
그 기간이 때문에 생각해보면 좀 어느 때보다도 많은 그 고민과 노력
I think we had to think a lot about this, and a lot of efforts were
We
needed.
believe that those 261 days were the days which were, during which a lot of painstaking efforts were necessary, and also a lot of patience were needed.
그래 우리는 오늘 여기서 이렇게 같이 만났는데
But
이번에
as I see you today,
보다 그 모든 사람들이 반기는 그런
and
훌륭한
I
결과가
hope that we can make fruitful achievements that many people are awaiting for, and I will
But here
strive
we
my
are
best.
today, sitting next to each other, and that gives us a hope that we will be successful this time, and I would really try to make that happen.
Thank you very much. That's really nice. And, well, I want to just say it's an honor to be with Chairman Kim. It's an honor to be together in really a country, Vietnam, where they've really rolled out the red carpet, and they're very honored to have us. And it's great to be with you. We had a very successful first summit. I felt it was very successful. And some people would like to see it go quicker. I'm satisfied, you're satisfied. We want to be happy with what we're doing. But I thought the first summit was a great success, and I think this one hopefully will be equal or greater than the first. And we made a lot of progress, and I think the biggest progress was our relationship is really a good one.
네, 대단히 감사합니다. 김정은 위원장님 다시 만나게 되어서 영광입니다. 그리고 또 오늘 같이 하게 되어서 또 매우 기쁩니다. 우리가 베트남에서 만났습니다. 베트남이 아주 우리를 굉장히 환영을 하고 레드카펫을 깐 것처럼 그렇게 환영하고 있습니다. 우리는 첫 번째 그 정상회담을 굉장히 성공적으로 마쳤습니다. 어떤 사람들은 우리의 어떤 진전이 더 빨리 갔으면 하고 그렇게 원하는 사람도 있지만 내가 보기에는 우리가 상당히 잘하고 있고 또 첫 번째 그 정상회담이 굉장히 성공적이었습니다. 이번 회담도 첫 번째 것과 같은 성공 또는 아니면 더 성공하기를 바라고 있습니다. 그리고 우리는 아마 이번에 더 많은 진전을 이룰 것 같습니다.
And as I've said many times, and I say it to the press, I say it to anybody that wants to listen, I think that your country has tremendous economic potential, unbelievable, unlimited. And I think that you will have a tremendous future with your country, a great leader. And I look forward to watching it happen and helping it to happen. And we will help it to happen.
우리 그 여러 번 제가 얘기를 했고 또 언론들한테도 제가 여러 번 했습니다만은 저는 조선이 엄청난 경제적인 잠재력을 가지고 있다라고 그렇게 생각합니다. 그리고 앞으로 큰 성공을 이룰 거로 생각합니다. 위대한 지도자 밑에서 아주 잘할 거로 생각합니다. 그리고 앞으로 그러한 성공을 저는 계속 보게 되기를 기대하고 있습니다.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate it. And we're going to go have dinner. And then we have some big meetings scheduled for tomorrow. And we'll see you, I guess, at a news conference at some point during the day. Thank you very much.
Good time. You are, I hope, one of the great photographers of the world.
Here, we have a translator.
Make us look very good. One of the great photographers, actually.
이제 우리가 예전에 한 15분 만났는데, 한 20분 만났는데.
Well, we had a meeting for about 20 minutes before coming here. It was about 30 minutes, I guess. And for that time, our conversation was very interesting.
Boy, if you could have heard that dialogue, what you would pay for that dialogue, that was good. So we're going to have a very busy day tomorrow, and we'll probably have a pretty quick dinner. And a lot of things are going to be solved, I hope, and I think it'll lead to really a wonderful situation long term. And our relationship is a very special relationship.
오늘 그 만찬을 한 다음에 또 내일은 하루 종일 또 아주 진지하게 회담을 할 예정입니다. 우리는 굉장히 좋은 관계를 가지고 있고 아마 성공적인 회담으로 생각이 됩니다.
진짜
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Well, it's looking like a very lighter atmosphere compared to when they first sat down and the lights suddenly went off for some unexpected special event that we did not get a closer look at. Chung-hee?
Much lighter, and of course, much lighter when they first exchanged their greetings before the press. The two leaders actually seemed very tense, very rigid, but now it seems like they're relaxed, ready to have dinner, ready to have a good dinner. They're smiling, intimate smiles. So just to give our viewers a recap, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un says that he had a almost 30-minute long conversation with his counterpart, with his U.S. counterpart, and he said the conversation was, quote, very interesting. And the U.S. President Donald Trump says a lot of things will be solved tonight, if I heard that correctly. And he said he hopes that what happens tonight will lead to some wonderful situations and some great results to come after the summit tomorrow. So there I was able to spot the two leaders plus their translators, as well as the two top aides from Pyongyang and Washington, the foreign minister and the head of the United Front Department from the North Korean side, as well as the Mick Mulvaney, the acting chief of staff from the White House, and the State Secretary Mike Pompeo.
Right, it's quite a change in tone from President Donald Trump. Initially, before the summit, he tried to lower expectations, saying, we'll see, and this is just one of many more summits to come. How do you read the change in attitude from President Donald Trump saying there's going to be something incredible tomorrow?
So from last year's experience, that President Trump always said something big, that he's going to achieve something nice, and he always mentioned that his relationship with the chairman Kim Jong-un is the key to make an achievement this time. So we don't know yet what is going on between two countries in terms of the negotiations so far. However, President Trump mentioned that there is all false reportings so far with regard to what can be achieved this time in Hanoi. So I think he's again attacking the media for the false reporting for him, and then I think that he's going to say he made a successful summit this time, regardless what kind of outcome that he's going to have this time. So what kind of criteria that we are going to have is the key to evaluate the summit this time. But for President Trump, any progress from the last year's summit would be evaluated as a success this time.
A very low bar.
Yes.
And we talked a little bit about setting up a liaison office for the two sides. For the two Koreas, it's not that difficult because it's just over the border, or they can set something on the border. But for the U.S., of course, this is going to be, it could be a tedious process, right?
So it's not going to be an easy job for the two governments to set up the liaison office in the capital of each country. However, there was an agreement between the U.S. and North Korea in the past that they would exchange the liaison office. So since there's a template from the past, that it's not going to be that difficult. However, when U.S. government promised to have liaison office in the past, that North Korea promised to dismantle Yongbyon, and they actually promised that they are going to remove all the existing nuclear weapons and materials and going back to NPT and going back under the IAEA safeguards.
We are actually seeing the footages from Reuters right now.
There we go. So now that's the motorcade. They must be going away from the venue.
Right. It seems
so I guess we can assume I would imagine that the dinner is wrapped up and they're going home.
Right. The fifth course menu must have finished. They must have eaten all of that, right? And they're all going home. We cannot see which street that is exactly, but we can think that President Trump is supposed to arrive in his hotel at 10:55 in Korea time, so he must be on his way.
And it's not far.
Right. So we just got reported. Right?
And they've also just officially reported that the dinner is over. So, okay, very good.
So there was a report that the U.S. government asked for the super simple menu for the dinner tonight, but it doesn't sound like super simple menu for me.
No, it doesn't.
Really doesn't.
It sounds delicious. All those adjectives, that's an interesting choice. It's not American food. It's not Korean food. It's the food of the host country.
Right. Always the food. Actually, the dinner menus are very important in these kind of summits. We always have been talking about this in the previous Pyongyang summit and in the Panmunjom summit as well. So it's very interesting to really hear about it. I definitely want to try it. But it seems like we're seeing the Hotel Metropole, actually, the French colonial era Metropole, hotel. And we're just seeing that the curtains have opened, and would that be Kim Jong-un's car?
Yeah, I think it's a North Korean motorcade that
right?
the North Korean cameramans in the front, they are filming the motorcade.
Right, because when Kim Jong-un was entering the hotel, I remember the curtain was opened, and then so now I think they're going back to their hotel.
Right, and Trump is at the Marriott, and Chairman Kim
is in Melia
at the Melia
right.
Hotel. That's right. And the Metropole is the meeting place.
Right, and both, as I said, the Melia Hotel and the JW Marriott are just 5 minutes away from each other. The North Korean embassy, which Chairman Kim Jong-un had visited yesterday, was also 10 minutes away from the Melia Hotel where he is staying. That's why we call the district the diplomatic district.
Okay. Yeah, and as we can see in the video, they've done quite a job on the traffic. If you've ever been to Hanoi or any big Vietnamese city, there are motorbikes everywhere, and they've restricted the traffic quite drastically for this event, as they have to.
I'm not sure how social the dinner was. However, they could not avoid the discussion on the subject of the denuclearization over the dinner. So maybe after they go back to their hotel, and both leaders are going to tell something to their negotiators. And I believe that the negotiators, Mr. Bigan and the Ambassador Kim Hyek-chul, probably is going to meet again in the night, and until the very early tomorrow morning, they are going to continue to have the negotiations just before the beginning of the negotiation between two leaders. It actually happened last year in Singapore that the negotiators from two sides had to negotiate until the very early in the morning to get some tangible result.
So even though it seems the leaders themselves might be heading home now, the night is just beginning for their deputies. But Chairman Kim is staying in Vietnam for a couple extra days after the summit's over.
Right. So just to make a correction, before I just mentioned that the two leaders where they're staying is actually 5 minutes away, but I just have to make a correction that it is actually about 20 minutes away. But before we talk about what Kim Jong-un's plan is, we are seeing the footage of Kim Jong-un probably getting out, because we see those bodyguards that I have been talking about.
There they are, yeah.
Right. They are the tall.
Always
I think,
12 of them.
Right, a dozen of them, tall men with short haircuts. They're always wearing suits, white shirt and ties, and they're always, it seems like they run always on the same pace as well. And we cannot see the sight of the Chairman Kim Jong-un, but they're definitely going to be near him.
I guess that's as close as you can get with, or that's as close as the Reuters reporter could get, if that's their video. But yeah, so Kim has arrived back at the Melia Hotel. Very
right.
good. After a 2-hour dinner.
And now for tomorrow, we still do not know exactly what is awaiting them, but definitely some say that they will meet up to 5 times, and starting with the one-on-one, just with the two of them and with the translators, and then they will have the expanded bilateral talks with their top aides, definitely, and then they will perhaps have lunch together too. And then there's also some speculation about whether they're going to have that stroll, which they had in the Singapore summit as well. It was taking place in
The stroll, like around the grounds of the hotel?
Exactly, in the
yeah,
courtyard that was in Singapore summit. What do you think, Dr.?
So one of the differences compared to the last year's summit was that we now have 2 designated negotiators from both sides. Last year it was like improvised negotiator. So the ambassador Sung Kim, he actually had a part-time job as a negotiator. And we have a Choi Sun-hee from North Korea, and she was not nominated as a top negotiator from the North Korean side.